Hi there, I'm Peter Millard, and in the 10-minute workshop this week, I make a mini-me version of Ikea's Gnedby shelving unit. Things we do for money. That's coming up next. So yes, perhaps one of the strangest little jobs that I've had to do to remake in natural timber an Ikea Gnedby shelving unit. And the Gnedby was designed for CDs or DVDs. Those are, for you youngsters out there, a portable storage medium, which was very popular in the 1980s, what you might call vintage. I've actually offered to go to Ikea and buy him another one and cut it down, but he wants me to make him one out of natural, real tree wood. So that's what I'll do. One of them is, he's got a couple of these that he wants me to do. One of them is a very straightforward extra two holes, for CDs on top of what he's got already. And the other one quite literally has a bit of a twist to it, and I'll explain that one in a bit more detail now. So yeah, a couple of these to do. One is very straightforward, the other one is a little bit more complex, and let's see if I can explain why. The Gnedby shelves themselves are 200mm wide and 170mm deep. And what he wants me to do for the second one, he wants an extra sort of extension, if you like, going on the top, but he wants to turn it around the other way because there's something else here. So if we built it up as it is, he wouldn't be able to get the full height. So we're going to put shelves in here, running back this way. So this means that this is actually going to be 200mm deep. So obviously if you start putting CDs in there, actually somewhere, I've been and borrowed a CD case from somebody because I don't have any. We'll have to put a false back in here just to stop the CDs sort of disappearing completely, and it is just for CDs, not DVDs, so we can calculate the heights so that they're just right. And what I'll probably do is I'll make the top and bottom shelves slightly shorter and we'll run the back in a groove on either side, because the top is going to be very close to the ceiling, so you won't be able to see it, and the bottom will be hard up against the top of the lower Gnedby bookcase shelving unit, so you won't see that either. So I've hit up my timber yard. I'm building the whole thing out of 8x1 redwood, so just under 200mm deep, and I've had it thickness down to 18mm, same as the original bookcases, and that's what we'll work on to start with. So this is our redwood. Got a couple of boards, just under 4 meters in total. Quite different, the two boards. I'll try and keep this one for the taller one and do the smaller one in this, because there's less of it to show. It's not as interesting a piece of wood. And there's just about space for this one, and to avoid the knots and things, so that'll work reasonably well. There's a million ways in which you could actually fix the shelves into these, but I'm going to treat this as a domino project. You could just glue it together, to be perfectly honest. It'd be plenty strong enough. You could use dowels, you could use biscuits, but I'll treat it as a domino project, and I'll use this to show you how I go about marking out something like this. You'd actually just run little housing joints in, couldn't you? That'd be an easy way to do it as well, and then just glue everything in, but dominoes are made for the job. So that's what I'll use for this one. So to start with, we'll get everything marked out. I've worked the dimensions out so we get even shelf spacing, so I know where things need to go. So we'll start getting this the longer board cut up, and then we'll get the shorter one done as well, and we'll start cracking on cutting some dominoes after that. I've marked the length of one side of the carcass and cut it to size, then used that side to cut another to match. Note how I'm using a backing strip to minimise the tear out. I mark the shelf width using a couple of bits of scrap. Then with the board in place, I can clamp a stop to the bench and cut all the shelves to size. After double checking I have the right number of shelves, I've marked out all the positions on a piece of tape and then transferred these across to the carcass. So, story so far, we've got the sides cut and we've got the shelves cut as well. We've marked out the shelf spacings with simple maths, we figured all that out. And what we need to do now is figure out how to mark this up to get the dominoes cut. Now the ends I can cut just using the dummy plate or the fence as normal. The inboard ones are a little bit trickier. We can reference off the front edge using the pins because they'll all be in line with the front face of the carcass. But for the inboard ones, because the back is going to be inset, I've got to figure that out. So we've got our borrowed DVD CD case here, and I think that's going to be about 145mm. Seems to be about right. So that's what we'll mark up. Maybe give it a little bit more. That's where the groove for the back is going to go. So then we need to figure out where the actual dominoes are going to go. First one's going to come in about here. If that's the back, it needs to come in about there. So about 120mm, because you don't want it too close to the back edge. Oh, we've also marked up the inside face and the front edge with tape as well, just so that we know where things are. Okay, the other thing that's occurred to me as well, which is a bit of a nuisance, is that because the groove for the back is going to be so far inboard, my grooving bit is going to have an awful lot of shank out of the router. I think that makes me a little bit nervous, so I'll probably just cut that groove with a track saw, make 2 or 3 passes in it, just to be safe with that, because that's it would be, where are we? It'd be that much shank with a big bit on the end out of the router, and it makes me a little bit uncomfortable. So I'll do the groove just with the track saw. With the carcass sides clamped to the bench, I'm extending the domino pencil line around the end of the board, then cutting the dominoes first with a narrow setting and referencing off the pins at the front edges, and then changing to the mid setting for the back dominoes, referenced off the pencil lines. Okay, so we've cut the dominoes in the ends, just referenced off the ends with the dummy plate as usual. We're going to switch to cutting the inboard dominoes now. At the front edge, that's easy enough, because you can just reference off the edge with the pins again, but we put pencil marks in for the one that's inboard. One of the slight niggles with this is that because of the way we're going to do this, it's really hard to see the pencil marks. So I've got a trick that might help with that. And the way I'm going to reference off a straight edge to get these inboard dominoes in line is that there's a little trick on the base of the domino here. there's a little lip, a little cutaway, and that marks the centre line of where your dominoes are going to be. And I'm going to use the much underrated and undervalued trick of just dropping the MFT rail down like this, and then I can use that as a complete straight edge. That's dead square to dogs that are in the holes here, and I can just snug this along so that that pencil line comes absolutely bang in line with the centre line, and I know that that domino is going to go right in there. The niggle that we have there, as I said, is sometimes it's hard to see a pencil mark on the board. So what we do with that, I just take a reference and mark it onto the rail instead. And then you can line up the scribe line on the base plate to your pencil mark, and you know it's in line every time.